world seems to be descending into a chaos that is absolutely unprecedented. French police have detained 12 suspects after a wave of syringe attacks occurred at France's Musique Street Festival. 145 people reported being pricked with syringes following calls on social media to jab women. The Gateway Pundit has covered the story. 145 people reported being pricked in this syringe attack. We also have reportedly 1,500 people injured and 371 arrested. So millions were in the streets across France on Saturday for a music festival known as the Fête de la Musique, when chaos broke out in the streets with reported brawls, clashes with police and stabbings, leaving hundreds or thousands injured. 145 people were assaulted in this so-called syringe attack, with the suspected intention being to intoxicate one with a date rape drug. A local mayor said the festival had broken all attendance records as the FC Metz soccer team was playing in a playoff match. Per France 24, nearly 150 people reported being assaulted with syringes across France during the annual Fête de la Musique summer festival, with Paris police reporting 13 cases in the capital alone. 12 suspects in the attacks were arrested. The Interior Ministry said more than 370 other people were detained nationwide on various other charges. Additionally, unconfirmed reports circulating on social media suggest that there was massive violence, leaving 1,500 injured. Per Remix News, 6 were stabbed with one in critical condition. 371 were arrested. 13 police officers were injured. 51 cars were set ablaze and 1,500 were injured. And you can see a video there from this outlet. Let's take a look. There's also clips circulating showing large mobs throwing trash down in what appears to be a subway entrance before dispersing rapidly as police in riot gear begin to deploy gas or smoke grenades. And there's also another clip showing a massive crowd stampeding away from smoke and what looks like a fire in the background. Take a look. Now, details on the rioting and mass brawling are still unclear. However, Metz Mayor Francois Grosdidier confirmed in an Instagram post that 2 individuals, including an attacker with a syringe, were arrested. He said on social networks, a call for syringe assaults has been launched during the music festivals in major cities. At 9:15 p.m, a first assault of this type was reported to us on Rue du Palais. About 15 young girls aged 14 to 20, so underage as well, were victims of this in Metz, he said. You can see the aftermath there of the attack. France 24 says before the party, posts on Snapchat and other social media had called for targeting women during the festivities. They give you the stats there that we've already discussed, and they say that officials did not specify if they were cases of these so-called needle spiking with date rape drugs, such as Rohypnol or GHB, used by attackers to render victims confused or unconscious and vulnerable to sexual assault. From Le Monde, a French outlet, they say that at least 3 people reported feeling unwell and some victims were taken to hospital for toxicological tests, the ministry said. In Paris, investigations were opened after these 3 people, including a 15-year-old girl and an 18-year-old male, reported being pricked in 3 different locations in Paris, and all 3 suffered from feeling unwell. Apart from all of these suspects, more than 370 people were detained during the festival on various charges, including nearly 90 people in Paris. 14 participants in the festivities were seriously injured, including a 17-year-old girl who was hospitalized after being found sitting on the street with stab wounds to the lower abdomen. 13 members of law enforcement were also injured. So this is certainly a bizarre and extremely concerning incident. Obviously, an investigation into who on earth coordinated this syringe attack in the first place is needed. But these types of threats and warnings of various threats are on the rise. Just over the weekend, the Department of Homeland Security's National Terrorism Advisory System issued a bulletin warning of cyber attacks and possible violent attacks in the US due to a homeland threat as a result of the war in the Middle East. They say, The ongoing Iran conflict is causing a heightened threat environment in the United States. Low-level cyber attacks against US networks by pro-Iranian hacktivists are likely, and cyber actors affiliated with the Iranian government may conduct attacks against US networks. Iran also has a long-standing commitment to target US government officials it views as responsible for the death of an Iranian military commander killed in January 2020. The likelihood of violent extremists in the homeland independently mobilizing to violence in response to the conflict would likely increase if Iranian leadership issued a religious ruling calling for retaliatory violence against targets in the homeland. Multiple recent homeland terrorist attacks have been motivated by anti-Semitic or anti-Israel sentiment, and the ongoing Israel-Iran conflict could contribute to US-based individuals plotting additional attacks. Now, what happened in France is likely unrelated to the war specifically, but the point stands that multiple countries are on high alert. Tensions are rising. Radical behavior, likely funded and organized by NGOs and or three-letter agencies, is on the rise, and there is just a clear and obvious unrest across the world. Whether it's due to the current conflicts worldwide, the state of any given nation at this point, due to governments worrying more about overseas conflicts while their own people are struggling to afford rent, food, medicine, paying for groceries with credit cards, unable to afford basic necessities, rising inflation and cost of living, immigration out of control. Every country all around the world is in this same situation. And by the way, once oil and food prices shoot up, we'll cover that later in the show, it's likely going to get much worse. Why do the same things happen all over the world at the same time? We saw this with COVID, we see this with speech laws, including in the US, and we see it with civil unrest now. What we are witnessing here is truly the decline of Western civilization. With all of these current events taking place, both at home and abroad, that goes for all the countries, it's time individual world leaders look within, sort out the problems in their own backyard, maybe stop rushing towards a nuclear World War III, and return to some sense of normalcy. There are things that you can do to keep your